Formula One holds a mega season launch event in London and divides opinions. Failure or thing is success? It's up to you to decide. The next day in Fiorano, Ferrari put the SF25 on the track for the first laps with Leclerc, and in the afternoon with Lewis Hamilton in front of a crowd of fans on the embankments, hillsides, and bridges trying to catch a glimpse of the red car. A few hours later, and 80 kilometers away, it was Racing Bull's turn, which was once Minardi last year, to send their new car onto the track with Tsunoda and then Isaac Hadjar. Felipe Massa talked about 2008, about Singapore Gate. Up until now, there's nothing new, but for the first time in a long time, he mentioned Fernando Alonso and said he did not behave well. He always had two faces. Lewis Hamilton gave his first interviews, now officially as a Ferrari driver, and said yes, emphatically. Do you think there's a chance to win the 2025 championship? And he added, if I win the 8th title, I might not retire so soon. Tony Kanaan becomes the team principal of McLaren in Indy, and Guenter Steiner, that amusing former Haas boss, and the star of Drive to Survive, drops a lawsuit against the team after the parties reach an agreement. Friday, February 21st, 2025, we are on the eve of the preseason. Exactly 1 week from now, we will be on the 3rd day of testing in Bahrain, making a video for you. But we'll talk about that soon. Sit down for this week's news. On Tuesday the 18th, as widely announced over the past few months, Formula One held an event at the O2 Arena in London to launch the 75th season, 3/4 of a century with Formula One. It was a mega event broadcast on Formula One's YouTube channel, on F1 TV, on BAN Sports, featuring the unveiling of the car liveries, interviews with the drivers and team principals, shows, attractions, those somewhat awkward Oscar-style jokes. In short, it had the complete package. I had already been mentioning here that we wouldn't see the real cars there, but rather mock-ups, those gas station models with the official liveries. We could consider it as a launch event for the liveries, the first chance to see the entire grid gathered together. All 10 teams, in reverse order of the Constructors' Championship, had about 7 to 8 minutes each to talk about the car, showcase it, answer questions, and so on, which means we started with Sauber, featuring Gabriel Bortoleto, Matthias Binotto, and Nico Hülkenberg. I did a live stream here right after it ended and commented that I liked this green on the Sauber. With its predominance on the car, it gave it more personality. After Sauber, it was Williams' turn, featuring Carlos Sainz. For the first time officially, with James Vallely, Alexander Alonso talking about this year's car, followed by the first big surprise, Racing Bull, with an entirely white car, reminiscent of that Red Bull from 2021 in Turkey, in tribute to Honda. Remember, a very beautiful car, a miniature that might be worth having when it launches. Then it was Haas's turn with Drive, Bergman, Esteban Ocon, and Ayel Komatsu. Next, Alpine, which many people consider the worst paint job of the year, with Gasly, Jack Durham, which many people bet won't make it halfway through the season, or even that. And of course, the Fiat Flavio Briatore also made an appearance there, feared especially by Jack Durham. Then Aston Martin with a green that surprised no one. But it's also really beautiful. Mercedes, with Toneri Russell Total Wolff in a paint job practically identical to last year's, changing a detail here and there. For example, the Ineos roll bar is no longer red. Then Red Bull with Max Verstappen, Leon Lawson, Christian Horner, who apparently got booed. And the paint job is identical, but I also understand the visual identity you have to maintain. Followed by Ferrari, the runner-up in constructors with Leclerc, Hamilton, and Fred Massa. And finally, the champion McLaren, with the excellent idea of showcasing cars from previous eras on stage. All of them champion cars. The event lasted about 2 hours. There were musical attractions between the stages, between the program segments, showing, as I mentioned in the live stream afterwards, the paintings. There were no real race cars there. Honestly, I don't know if the trip was worth it. But anyway, those who went can comment better. I don't think, as I also mentioned in the live stream, that we will have this event every year. It was more of a hook for the 75th anniversary of Formula One. I think next year it won't have this appeal. It happened this year because it was the first time something like this occurred, and for the 75th anniversary. The next day, early in the morning, and in front of a crowd that gathered on the banks, slopes, bridges, any higher point that allowed a view inside the track walls, Ferrari showcased the SF25 of Leclerc and Hamilton for this season. The car is described by the team as 99% revised, even though it resembles in many ways the Ferrari from the previous year. But it was already possible to notice some changes, such as the important geometry of the front suspension. For example, they switched from a pull rod, where the suspension arms descend from the axle towards the shock absorbers, which are then fitted underneath in the nose, to a push rod, something more conventional. And the explanation from Louis Ferrari, one of the project leaders, is aerodynamics, removing that arm from the path to help the flow going to the Venturi tunnels. They mentioned that last year's design was very close to the development limit, and to continue for another year on this platform, something had to be done. In the morning, it was Leclerc on the track, and in the afternoon, Lewis Hamilton. Remember that on these occasions when you do filming, you use special tires that have a limit of running 200 kilometers. Hamilton highlighted the positive side of the day, which included favorable weather, dry conditions, and no problems with the car and shakedown. It's precisely to check if there are no leaks, no problems, no overheating, nothing out of place. So, mission accomplished for Ferrari in this first stage, as was the case with the others, Racing Bull, which we already mentioned, Williams, Haas, and McLaren, not forgetting the Constructors' Champion, just that. Fred Massa, the head of Ferrari, emphasized the importance of the first races this season, already indicating that from the second half onwards, we will not allocate resources to this car, or at least we will not do as in previous years, continuing to update until the end. Why? Because they have to balance wind tunnel time, CFD resources, and human resources. Guenter, for the 2026 car and for the engine, the 2026 engine will also be different. This could be good news. Leclerc, think with me. Imagine that Ferrari comes with a very good car, capable of fighting for victories. It is natural to expect that Leclerc will be more involved, more ready, right from the start, since he has been with the team for so long compared to Hamilton. And if Hamilton waits until the second half to try to react, for example, it could be a title for Leclerc. Charles will fight. And as I mentioned in the Sunday video, I recommend you watch it with 5 big questions of this season. Hamilton might have only one shot to fight for his 8th title, because we never know how Ferrari will come in 2026. We know they are doing well now. Oh, but how do you know they are doing well now? They fought for the Constructors' Championship until the last race of last year. And this year's car is basically an evolution. Ferrari's next steps on the track are on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, with everyone already in the preseason of the new season in Bahrain, better known as Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, when we will have videos here. Every day. With a large part of the international media's attention, and especially the Italians, focused on the track in Fiorano, 80 km. From there, a little later, Racing Bull sent their new car, first with Tsunoda and then with the rookie Isaac Hadjar to the track. The initial plan was for the car to run on Monday, the 17th, but due to the fear that paparazzi might leak photos of the new paint job, and knowing the obligation to hide a new layout so that the official launch could take place on the 18th Tuesday in London, the team preferred to postpone and run only on Wednesday to prevent the images from spreading worldwide. And nowadays, you know, right, it's fatal, yes. Someone sees photographs and posts, and that's it. Tsunoda went to the track with the last Vicarby car, which will have a Honda engine, which might also mean his last car there. He, as we know, races in the Red Bull Young Drivers program, but he is a Honda driver. The influence of last year's Red Bull car was evident in this year's V-Carb project, with side pod inlets and front suspension identical to the RB20, and of course the same gearbox and engine. When asked about the inspiration, 𝘾𝙤𝙥𝙮𝙦, the team leader, said, "In terms of synergy with Red Bull, nothing has changed in the V-Carb 002. As we have said several times, we try to share whatever is allowed within the rules. It's not just only 1% of the car, but the main components we can share, like the gearbox and suspensions. Speaking about 𝘾𝙤𝙥𝙮𝙧𝙞𝙤𝙀 goals this year, Max added, "We wanted a more consistent car compared to last year. We had some very good moments in 2024, but also some very difficult races. So our goal was to understand what made our car unstable and try to fix those issues. Furthermore, we are evolving as a team. I'm not here to say that we have solved all the competitiveness issues, because we haven't, but we are certainly heading in the right direction. Our new facility in Milton Keynes, because they still had the old factory at Minardi in Faenza, Italy, but they opened one next to Red Bull at the headquarters in Milton Keynes, which started operating on January 2nd, and now we have two great headquarters. The team is structuring itself, and many people joined the project. Besides Tsunoda and Hajar, Ayumu Iwasa, who is a reserve driver, also took to the track, driving last year's car in those rookie tests. But since everyone was already there on the track, he went for a spin." Felipe Massa gave an interview to a portal called Relevo and commented on 2008 and the Singapore Gate. Up to this point, there's not much news, as he has already talked about this subject several times. And we know that he is taking legal action against FON and FIA, seeking damages for that championship result manipulation, Nelsinho, Flavio Briatore. In short, you know the story. But I always wondered, and this time Massa explicitly talked about what I wanted to know. Not because I wanted to know, obviously, but he talked about it. Fernando Alonso's role in this story. And he says he never talked about it, and it's a shame, because his greatness as a driver does not match the way he behaved there. He said he didn't know anything, but he covered everything up. But he stated what he has said other times, that he feels like the world champion of 2008, saying, here with quotes, "I can calmly say that I won the 2008 World Championship. What happened was unacceptable for Formula One. A terrible manipulation that has nothing to do with the sport. Yes, a driver who caused an accident that allowed his teammate to win the race. Everyone knows that they could have investigated, but they didn't. The political responsibility fell on the team leaders, but they didn't want to do anything. I will fight until the end to ensure this doesn't happen again. I was the main victim, and I insist that this is not sport." But then, as I mentioned, this time Massa did not spare Fernando Alonso. An incredible driver, one of the greatest phenomena in history, without a doubt. But that doesn't change what I think about the 2008 incident. Fernando did not behave well. He never spoke about the issue, which is a shame, because his greatness as a driver does not match the way he acted. He said he didn't know anything. He hid everything. This is not acceptable, because we are talking about a high-level sport, an example for children and adults. He could have been more honest and told the truth. I always thought that Alonso knew what happened. Think with me for a second. Alonso is a guy who nowadays questions any team decision, who gives his opinion on strategy, and so on. Do you think he would agree to a completely untimely pit stop on a street circuit where overtaking was impossible? Of course, he stopped knowing. And then, with a full tank and hard tires, he went to the end and won the Singapore Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, this week, due to the official launch in London and also the shakedown that Ferrari did with the 2025 car, spoke then, for the first time officially in the interview, not only to Ferrari's official channels, but to the whole world as a driver for the Italian team. He avoided the subject throughout 2024, understandably, as he was under contract with Mercedes, and at the beginning of this year, he was there training, exercising, and getting accustomed to Ferrari inside the factory. That's why, this time, the first statements have now come out. He was asked and answered directly. Do you think you have a chance? Hamilton, do you have a chance to win the 2025 championship? Yes, and he added, I have already worked in 2 teams that won championships. I know what a team needs and what it must have within it to win titles. And we definitely have all the ingredients here. When asked about his motivation at this point in his career, having won 7 titles and more than 100 Grand Prix, he replied, and I will read to not miss any detail, if this happens, it will be my first. It's not about an 8th title, but rather my first world championship with Ferrari. This means making history with this team. If I am fortunate enough to achieve another title, which is our goal, I don't see myself ready to stop. Tony Kanaan has been officially appointed as the team principal of McLaren in Indy. He had already been occupying the position of deputy team principal, principal, which would be a vice team leader since last year, when Arrow McLaren dismissed Kevin Ward, the previous chief, in November 2024. Now, Tony has been officially appointed as the chief, and the team leader, Zach Brown, commented on Tony's arrival in the chief position and also on a president for the team. His name, Kevin? Tim John? And he said, "I'm excited to welcome Kevin to McLaren and to our leadership group. Kevin and I have been very close since our early days together, and he is the right person to prepare the team for long-term success." A few months ago, I said that if we could find extra power to add to the team, we would do it. And Kevin is the perfect example of that. Under Tony's leadership, the team has been advancing rapidly. Tony and Kevin will work well together to maintain this positive momentum. Our eyes are set on how we stabilize and grow strategically while competing at the top. The 2025 Indy season starts on March 2nd with the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, Florida. And according to Indy's own Instagram, we will have broadcasts on TV, Cultura, Play, ESPN, and Disney+. So stay tuned. Guenter Steiner took Haas to court, but they reached a settlement. The former Haas boss and star of Drive to Survive, Guenter Steiner, was filing a lawsuit against the team. After the end of this, part of his contract in 2024 promoting Joko Matthias to the leadership position. In April of last year, Guenter filed a lawsuit against Haas Formula LLC, CNPJ, which manages the team, seeking compensation. Under the following terms, the popularity of Formula One in America is growing rapidly, and Haas Formula One has grown along with it. But neither Haas nor Formula One, mind you, would exist in modern America if it weren't for Guenter Steiner. That's what I call self-esteem. Furthermore, he claimed that Haas profited from his image, even after he was no longer part of the team. In 2024, there was then a mediation. The parties sat at the table to put an end to this discussion, and an agreement was reached. They reached good terms. The statement reads as follows. Haas Formula LLC is pleased to announce that Guenter Steiner and the team have resolved their dispute. Guenter has withdrawn the accusations previously made in his lawsuit, and all claims against Haas have been dismissed. Both Mr. Steiner and Haas wish each other success in their future endeavors and will not make further comments on the matter. First of all, I am a lawyer and I have to argue a story here. It might even be that Haas wouldn't exist in the United States, and neither would Formula One in the way they are, if it weren't for Guenter Steiner. But what about would Steiner exist if it weren't for Haas? Because until he became the head of the American team, he was an obscure manager with some stints at Jaguar and so on. Nobody paid attention to him, to be quite frank. This week, the Tuesday episode came on Sunday due to the Formula One launch event. It talked about 5 big questions that the 2025 season will answer. And Aston Martin and Red Bull and McLaren and Bortoleto and Hamilton. We reflected on each of these topics, and I will leave the link below in the description. Here's the thumbnail. On Wednesday, indeed, our small segment, The Great Stories, told about when Max Verstappen got stuck in the toilet of his father Jose's team motorhome. Yes, that happened. Link below in the description. I'm thinking this Sunday of making a video about those bizarre moments at Nürburgring track day, because every time I post a snippet on Instagram, you always say, we missed the reacts. So I'm thinking of doing it. What do you think? Comment below. So I know Tuesday we have a regular programming episode, and on Wednesday there won't be a small big story because there's a video of the day. Already talking about the first day of activities there in Bahrain, the tests Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which means that our news video next week will be full of information about the third and final day of the teams there in Sakhir. All right, so leave a like. It's free. It costs nothing. You know, it really helps the channel. Do me this favor. Do us this favor also in 2025. And don't forget to leave us your hype, this new tool that's right here next to the comment box where you can press hype and show the algorithm, show the community, show the world that you like the videos, like the channel, like our work. We are getting closer and closer to the symbolic mark of 200,000 subscribers. And I owe this, obviously, to you who leave comments, leave likes, leave hypes, in a much larger proportion of channels with 10, 15 times our number of subscribers. Why? Why? because you are the real deal. So, hey, it's Friday, leave a like. I'm also a child of God. And on screen Friday, our checklist is in hand. Thanks. A big hug. It's Friday. Kiss!